Lakota Star knowledge, and that the basic concept is that reality begins within. And that, so that means if you go within yourself and set things so that there's healthiness, then your communication comes from there. So that'll be healthy. And whatever comes to you, you know how to process it in a healthy way, regardless of whether it's unhealthy or unhealthy. Yeah, that which comes to you from others, if it's even if it's unhealthy, you'll know what to do with it, so it doesn't stay in you, and then you learn from it. Yeah. So what this entails is that we do our best, to, and don't go extreme. Yeah, you just do your best in these things, and part of that includes taking care of yourself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And there's all kinds of activities you can do to do that. And as you do that, you're going to slowly start to go within yourself, all by nature. Yeah, just naturally, it's going to happen. And then you're going to start to present it with opportunities to come to peace with your difficulties from your past. So you face them one by one, yeah, and you learn from them. You start. The emotions are still there, yeah, but that's the point. You have to get those out of your body. So when you're ready, you face them. Yeah, when you are ready, you don't want to force yourself. You have to wait until you're ready, and you might even have to talk to somebody, and that's good because we're designed to help one another. We're supposed to help one another. Sometimes there are experiences that we cannot do alone, and that's okay. Yeah, that is okay. Just don't do everything like that. Yeah, just the really, really difficult ones, we might have to have some help with that, and that's fine. And then we look at this experience, and then we express the emotions, whether it's getting mad or angry, or same thing, yeah, mad, or be scared, or to be sad. We have to express that emotion, because as we're doing that, it's leaving. Yeah, as we express that emotion, as long as we don't hurt anybody, including ourselves, that emotion is going to be leaving us now as we express it, as I said. And then you start to learn from that experience. Yeah, just learn from it, and then make the best of it. And now you have wisdom. Now you have knowledge. Those emotions are gone, and now you have peace. Yeah, you're at peace with it. So the point in doing this is not to forget it, but to come to peace with it. And then you gain knowledge and wisdom. And then you can use that to help others. Because, see, we're blessings. And this is how we fulfill our role as blessings, by going through these experiences and then, doing what I just said here, so that we can share it, yeah, and help others who are going through problems too. And the more we do this, the more peace we have in our lives. And this is, now we're teaching, now we're learning something. See, what this did is it's you getting to know yourself. You're taking the time to do that now, and you're achieving peace while doing that. Now you're learning a life skill that is one of the most important ones that you're going to use for the rest of your life. Yeah? Now, in nature, difficulties happen, but also good things happen. Yeah? Now, we don't call difficulties bad things. This is the reason why. When it happens, you do what you did to your past difficulties. You whatever emotions it makes you feel, express them so they can leave. Yeah? The sadness, the anger, the fear. You express them so they can leave. And then you start learning from it. Yeah? Just don't hurt anybody, including yourself. And again, if it's a really difficult one, you can have somebody guide you through it, who's more experienced, someone you trust. Yeah? And then you start learning from it, and you make the best of it. And again, just like with your past experiences, you gain knowledge, you gain wisdom. those emotions are gone, and you have more peace again. And now you have more information to help others. You fulfill your role even more as a blessing. And then you see, this is not a bad thing. This is why we do not call difficulties bad. They're just difficult. In the Lakota way of thinking, it's actually a blessing in disguise. But you have to work for it. And you can. Huh? So this is your opportunity. This is your part of your way. Yeah. And nature is this way. This is what we learn from nature. Yeah. So we're a part of nature. So because of that, logic just says that, hey, we learn from it. Yeah? And then we can use this to help others because we all go through similar experiences all over the world. The same kind of things make us laugh and cry, get angry, get scared. We have that common experience all over the world. This is why this is why our ancestors called each other Ikche-Oyate. We are the common people. We are the human beings. And all this is occurring within you. This is where we all are the same. Yeah? We're no different than others. And just to break from this, no, maybe I better not break because I always forget where I left off. So, but this is, like I said, this is a part of life. This is the purpose of life, to learn from difficult experiences and then enjoy the good ones. Because, when you're coming to peace with your past, as I stated earlier, that's going to unlock a lot of nice memories for you to think about again. And they're going to medicate you. Yeah, they're going to make you feel good. You're going to remember being there again. Maybe it was at a restaurant, yeah, and you ate really good food with somebody you really like, or maybe as a little boy, you're going to remember taking your best friend for a ride on your brand new bike and letting him try it out, or her. You're going to remember things like that. You're going to remember doing things and then somebody falling and both of you end up rolling down the hill and just laughing, and you're going to remember things like that. That's going to make you feel good. That's supposed to. That's medication. Yeah, that's going to help you. You can always think of those anytime. Yeah? It helps you to get back on your feet sometimes. That's medicine for you. Yeah? So this is what's going to happen too. Still, that every now and then something happens nice too, out of the blue. Yeah, that's for you to enjoy. Don't question it. Just enjoy it until the next experience comes. See how that works? So you are either you're learning from a difficulty or you're enjoying a blessing. But the thing is, when you're learning from a difficulty, that results in a blessing. So this is why we call this, living. When you live this way, this is why we call it a healthy road. Yeah, this is the road to life. In Lakota, we say Chunkuluta. Luta is a word for the color red for things that are alive in their natural state, like trees and plants and rocks. And rocks are alive, believe it or not. And all animals, plants, all these kind of things, ourselves, and so forth. And so, even a cloud is alive. So we say luta for that. Yeah, and so luta represents life. It's like blood. Like when a baby is born, even when the earth was born, there was lava flowing all over her surface, and this is her blood. Lava is her blood. It's not oil. It's not water. It's lava. That's the blood of our grandmother Earth. Everything that, even most plants bleed red too. Yeah? And this is what that signifies, life. Yeah, it signifies life. So this is why it's called Chankuluta. It doesn't represent Indians. Red does not represent Indians. That's a modern teaching. But in Lakota Star Knowledge stories, it doesn't say that. Yeah? It doesn't say that at all, that we are red people. It says that we are Ikche Oyate. That all humans are Ikche. Okay? So this is the foundation, yeah, to healthy living. That reality begins within, going within yourself. See, taking care of yourself. That means what I explained. Learning from your difficulties and enjoying blessings. And see, when you're doing this, what you're doing is you're taking the time to check things out. Yeah, if it all began with you, you took the time to check yourself out, to come to peace inside of yourself. And now you're doing this with everything else. Yeah, you're taking time to check it out, and you learn from it. Yeah, and this is the way. Yeah, this is the way to live. And yeah, that's the foundation there. Yeah, because reality begins within. So when you go within, all this that I just talk about results, and this way, you're really living your life. Yeah, you're when something rugged happens, it's okay. You express that emotion, yeah, because you gotta get that energy out. So you express that emotion. Just don't hurt anybody, including yourself. Then it comes out. Then you start saying, okay, well, let's see, what can we do? Yeah, what can we do with what we do have? And let's make the best of it. And that's going to put you on another road. That's going to take you to someplace wonderful. Yeah. So that's how you do it. And you know, and like I said, this goes to show you that sometimes things happen out of the blue. We acknowledge that. So when it does happen like that, then we know what to do. Yeah. So you don't live healthy so good things will happen. That's not the reason. That's linear thinking. Yeah, to do good things so only good things will happen. Nature doesn't work that way. You live in a healthy way so you will be healthy, but you acknowledge that there's things that could happen that just come out of the blue, or you make a mistake. And that's okay. You just step back and take a breather and then express the emotion and then start learning from it. Even if it's a mistake, you start learning from it and then make the best of it. And that mistake is no longer a mistake. It just taught you something. It's a blessing now. See what I mean? But like I said, don't make mistakes on purpose. And after you learn from one, don't make it again, yeah? That's not the purpose, yeah? So you have to remember those kind of things. So this is what it's all about. It starts from this way, yeah? It starts from going within. And it's all based on that. Reality begins within. And when you do this, you're really giving a good foundation, you know, between all the four parts of yourself and everything that includes. Yeah? So everything inside of you is connected. So when you live in this healthy way, you're nurturing all those connections so they can all communicate with each other in a healthy way. And now your inner universe is at peace. This is your inner universe. Your inside universe. The universe inside of you. Once you have that established, now you're able to be at peace with the world around you. It doesn't mean you agree with everything, but it just means you're at peace. Even with, you know, things you can disagree with, and you let it be. You see, but as soon as you try to change something to your liking, that's when you're becoming an oppressor, and you're bringing in duality. Yeah, that's what I said earlier. people trying to separate themselves, make, control everything their way, and what they're doing is they're oppressing others, and that's called duality. You're combining things into two groups. That's why you're using that word dual from the Latin, and it makes this English word duality, two opposing sides. So it's about what this Lakota Star Knowledge way that I explained here, of living in peace within yourself. What that's about is that sometimes we experience difficulties on one side, and sometimes we experience blessings on the other side. That we have to acknowledge both, and we learn from them, yeah, and we learn from them, and we enjoy the blessings they produce, because difficulties, can produce blessings when you learn from it, as I said earlier. Yeah, so but what this does when you do this, it brings you to a third area. That's peace. It's not happiness. Happiness belongs to the blessing side. No, peace is between difficulties and blessings. Yeah? Peace is between difficulty and blessings. When you just exist. To be. You just are. Yeah? You are, I am, we are. You see what I mean? That's the third perspective. That's the foundation of Lakota Star Knowledge. And guess what? There's more than three perspectives. But Lakota Star Knowledge says, whenever you encounter something, look for at least three perspectives. Excuse me. Yeah, look for at least three perspectives, because everything has at least three perspectives. So when you look for three, you avoid falling into that duality trap. Yeah? So you look for three, and then you start learning from them. And if there's a fourth one, then you will see it. You only will see the fourth one after you see the first three. If there's a fourth one, because some situations will only have three. So that's important to know. Now, what some people do is they look at something and they only look for a part they like, and they say that's the good one, and then they reject the rest. Remember, Lakota Star Knowledge says there's at least three. So when they take only one part and call it good, they're calling the rest of it bad. So if there are just three perspectives in that certain situation that person is dealing with, he's only accepting 1/3 of that reality. That's only 33%. You see all the information he's missing, that he's neglecting, that he's denying. In other words, if the experience is a difficulty, he's missing the blessing. He's denying it. He's pushing it away. If it's a nice experience, he's not feeling the fullness of it. He's not seeing all of the beauty. He's only perceiving and comprehending 33% of it. So they don't really live. You see, they really miss out on life. And these could be doctors, they could be lawyers, they could be really, really educated people. But this is the way they think. They're missing out on life. They may travel all over the world, but they're not really seeing it. So it doesn't matter how much money you have. As long as you think in this way, you are dualistic. You are separating everything into just two components, and you are experiencing at the most only 33% of reality. So you're missing out on a lot of things in life. Even if you're a millionaire, traveling all over the world, and you don't even have to work anymore, you're still missing the total picture. That's also duality. Yeah? And another form of duality happened in the development of humans. And this is when, as humans come out on the earth, Lakota Star Knowledge teaches us that they appeared in 5 areas. There was only one continent during that time. Yeah? And as they intermingled with each other, they realize that they're very alike, that they have the same, they feel the same way about the same kind of things. For example, the same kind of things that make them laugh, make the others laugh too. And all other emotions follow the same suit. Yeah? So they start to intermingle with each other, and they realize that, hey, they notice that their babies, they all sound the same. They speak the same language. So they realize they're all Ikcha'oyate. Yeah? Then they intermingle, and then they move in separate areas of this great continent. And then they settle, in areas that they like. And after millions of years, their skin color starts to change. Their hair texture and eye color starts to change. Because their bodies are adapting to that environment. And some environments are closer to the sun than others. So those ones, their skin gets darker. Those that go further away from the sun, their skin gets lighter. You see how that forms? That's how the races begin. But in the beginning, they always communicated from within themselves, from where their physical bodies, their minds, and their emotions, and their soul connect to each other. You can use a medicine wheel to represent that. That they all connect to each other and at the center. And this is at the center is also where a piece of the Grandmother Earth is inside of you. So when you're living this healthy way that I explained, you communicate from that area. That's your sacred center, and that's also where you're in touch with the Grandmother Earth. So if she ever has a message for you, you will hear it. And when you are feeling really down, you can talk to her, and she will hear you when you communicate through there. Because she's right there beside you. She's inside of you. So it doesn't matter where you are. You can go in nature if you want to. That's fine. But if you don't have that possibility, you visualize it. You visualize it. That's just as powerful because it puts you there. It puts your mind there. Even when you're in the hospital or in jail or in a marriage. Not that bad. No, I'm just kidding. Oh heck. Or when you're at a powwow and you're standing in a long line at the bathroom. It's another rugged situation, yeah. Tehia Yankelo, yeah. Anyway. Oh shoot. So so this is the foundation here, yeah. And there was one more thought I had, and I should have said it when I had it, but I would have interrupted one of my sentences. I would have interrupted myself. Excuse me, sorry about that. Yeah, so this is the foundation, and you see, it's a wonderful way to live. Yeah. Oh, I was talking about the people, skin color. Yeah, And yeah, the humans separating and skin color developing and that kind of thing. And like I said, in the beginning, they still maintained their sacred centers. They still communicated from their sacred centers. Excuse me. Even after they separated from one another and their skin colors changed. In the beginning, they still communicated from there. And but in time, as they got more attached to the environment that they lived in, they started to focus more away from their sacred center. And then they started to develop ceremonies. They started to develop rituals and songs and things like that. And that all has to do with their skin color. Yeah, that has to do with their outer identity. And remember, reality begins within, not without. Yeah. So now they're going away from their sacred centers. And when they encounter a different group, the natural, the not the natural, but the first thing they feel is stress and distress, and then trouble. That's duality, because they're focusing away from their sacred center. And that's the reason why, in North America and South America, actually all over the world, people started going to war with each other. They're starting to rise above each other. That is duality. That happened among Indian people too. That's why we have enemies. The fact that we have enemies that says it was a dualistic world. Even before the white people came, we had duality. There's a lot of Indians who know about duality. They try to blame it on the white people. Yeah, and they try to say everything was just fine. We swam in the lakes and we climbed trees and chased tumbleweeds. Kind of Indian does that. Ooh, a tumbleweed. Let's go after it. Those would be the Oglalas, yeah. Oh shoot. Anyway, so this is what was I gonna say? Talking about these activities, what was I thinking of before that? Anyway, they're focusing more on their outer identities now, yeah, and and like I said, languages start to change, and even though people look the same, when the fact that the other people speaks a different language, they feel threatened. Yeah, so then they begin attacking each other. And I was talking about how the Indians who do know duality, they blame it on the white man. They think that came from the white man. And a lot of white people say that too. They say that there was a white race that brought duality. That's false. That is entirely false. It existed among Indians too. We were at war with each other, and that's what I was saying. We were at war with each other. And like I said, some Indians will say that. And that's when I went. This was from a song, yeah, from a band called Exit, and this song starts. One of the lyrics goes something like that. We were swimming in the lakes and fishing and doing all these wonderful things. That's just part of the picture, yeah. What do you think? What's the other part of the picture? There's guards standing around the area. There are guards standing around the area in case enemies come in. So if enemies come in, then they send a signal, whether it's by making animal sounds or whatever. And so the people who are frolicking in the lake, They better hear it so they can get out and get ready to go to war. That's the reality. So when you hear Indian songs saying, "Oh, we were just in one with nature and at at peace with the nature," and then the white people came and gave us disease, that's bullshit. That's a very, very incomplete view. Yeah? The fact is we were at war. You could not walk on the prairie by yourself. Just out there going, That's a Oglala song, yeah? Hunting for, that's the a tumbleweed hunting song from the Oglala Sioux Nation, yeah? See, this is a big part of our culture is humor. Yeah, to tease each other, and also to tease ourselves. And anyway, the tumbleweed hunting song. Oh shit, I like that. I gotta write that down. Anyway, it wasn't that way. You couldn't do that because there's always people traveling, always, and you don't know if they're enemies or not. Yeah, so you have to be careful. That's why you went in groups. Yeah, so this is telling you there was no peace among Indian people in those days. You always had to be ready for the enemies. That's not peace. Yeah? So there's always war happening. Always. This is duality, my friends. Yeah? This was not taught to us by white people. We're doing it ourselves. Now this is what happened. Yeah? So today in this modern world we have that opportunity to do away with that. To start looking at each other as human beings. And with Indians they can begin by looking at each other as Indian people. Indigenous or natives or whatever they want to call themselves, First Nations or whatever. Yeah, they can start seeing each other like that and start looking for common things and focusing on that, and maybe slowly start working back towards the sacred center again. And then look at other people of other skin colors and do the same thing. That might be the best way to do it step by step. Because most people, I think, have problems doing that. So that it's probably best if they do it slow. But for me, it was not a problem. Yeah, the way I was raised was, whenever my mom wanted to show me something, she would say, "Look at this guy, look at this lady, look at these kids." She never said what skin color they were. And so I learned to see it like that. Now, how my mother got this way, I'm not too sure. I know she had tuberculosis as a little girl, and she stayed in the hospital for over 6 years on her back. And when they found there was a new method to treat the disease developed in America, and they tried it out on Indians first to see if it worked. No kidding. The Indians were the guinea pigs. They still are. Yeah. And so it worked. And so my mother was one of the first people that they tried this experiment on, and it worked. So she beat it, and then she had to learn how to walk because she was laying on her back for 6 years. She had to learn how to walk again, build up her muscles again. And she stayed in Rapid City. She went back to the reservation and realized she's not a part of that anymore. She's not connected to it anymore. And so she went back to Rapid City to some program that that helps people who went through this illness to find jobs. So she worked at an Indian museum, and this program bought her a car, and a nun a nun taught her how to drive. So it was really funny, yeah. And then she ended up in Rapid City. I mean, she found a really nice paying job that came with a house in the Rosebud Sioux Reservation, and so she went over there and worked, and that's where she met my dad. Yeah, and 2 years later, voila, here I come. And so I think living in the city exposed her to Mexicans and black people, and also a little bit of Asian people too. And so she realized that there a lot of things are similar. So that's when she started saying, that yes, there might be differences, but those are differences that we make. Yeah, they're man-made differences. But when it comes down to it, naturally, we're the same. And so I think I got that from her. One of the good things that I'm thankful about. Yeah, one of the good things that came from that experience that almost took her life. She learned how to see people from their sacred center. Yeah, so I think that's where I learned it. So anyway, this is excuse me. This is just to share something small with you that my mother said to me when she was in this sanatorium. There were 5 sanatoriums set up for Indian people in America. Yeah, one was in Oklahoma City, one was I think in California, and the other one in somewhere out east, and then Rapid City, South Dakota, for the Midwest. So there were Indians from all over the Midwest that were sent there. Yeah, from Minnesota, Wyoming, Colorado, Utah, Nevada, Montana, South Dakota, North Dakota, Nebraska, Iowa. They were all sent there they had tuberculosis. She said every day Indians were dying. So they closed the doors. They closed all the doors in the hallways, and then you could hear the wheels going by, and they said, "Yeah, somebody just died. Yeah, somebody just died." So every day, she said, you heard that. Sometimes several times a day, you heard that. And they were, as soon as they're taking a dead Indian out, a new one's coming in from someplace. So she met Indians from all over the place. Yeah. Because they would, those that could, go in wheelchairs, they would come and visit my mom. Because she couldn't, she had to stay in bed. She had it kind of bad. So she just, in her mind, she said, she just focused on, I want to live. Yeah, I want to live. And she visualized herself, riding horses, doing things with animals, and planting a garden, and running, and just climbing trees, because she was sent when she was, I think, what did she say, 10 years old. She was sent there. Yeah, so she just visualized this dancing and singing. I want to live. And she visualized herself doing this as much as she could. And she said that's what kept her through. In other words, she had hope. Yeah? She had hope that yes, even though kids were dying and adults too, it wasn't just kids, there were adults, people of all ages that had this disease. They were all dying, but she believed. See, after she started talking to some of them, she saw that they lost hope. As she started to think, maybe if they thought differently, they would live a little bit longer. So she, tried to encourage too. you know, because when she tried to encourage others, that act made her feel good too. Yeah, to encourage others, to make others laugh, to tell funny stories, because that's what a lot of them did. They told funny stories to each other to make each other laugh, so that they could feel good, even though some of them were about ready to die. They did what they could to feel good, and they had hope. Some would sing for each other, yeah, and they really tried their best, and some of them made it. My mom was one of them. You see, reality begins within. So I think this is something she knew. So she did these things, and like I said, visualizations. She visualized herself doing these things, and she had hope. This starts things in your mind. These activities of visualizing and having hope in your mind, that starts things in motion that are going to go in your favor. But you have to keep doing that. You're doing the work. You see, reality begins within, and eventually it let her out. After 6 years, she made it. Yeah, the doctors found a new kind of treatment in which what they did was they go into your cavity, yeah, and they squeeze the lung that has more of the disease. They squeeze that so it's all compact, and then they expand it again, and all the disease is now located in one area of the lung. Then they cut that out. So one of my mother's lungs was smaller than the other, but she lived. And that woman really lived after that. She did the things that she hoped for, and she did more. Yeah. So, I mean, she did really amazing things, like driving through blizzards. Shit, even when I became an adult, there were blizzards I was afraid to drive through, but she just took over and said, "This is nothing." This lady was really a warrior. Yeah. So this is something I'd like to pass on to others. Yeah, how my mom saw this, and you have to remember, this was a woman that was expected to die. She had tuberculosis. She was laying on her back for 6 years. Yeah, and what she visualized. She said, it doesn't matter if I died or not. I'm gonna go out thinking good things, even having hope. I'm gonna go out thinking good, she said. So she set that. That was her goal. No matter which way, she's going to go out thinking good thoughts, good memories, visualizing, running, visualizing, riding horse, out in the fields, wind in her hair, yeah, listening to birds singing and all these things that she experienced as a little girl before going into this hospital. Yeah. So this is inspiration for me. When I start going through a difficult time, I just think of what my mom went through, and she went through a lot of shit that most people have no idea what it's like. And now it's Ebola today, yeah. Man. So anyway, that's I just want to pass that on to you, and that teaches you, that shows you what I mean when I'm talking about reality beginning within and using visualization and hope. And sometimes you need outside help, and that's totally fine. Like in my mom's case, this doctors developed this new technique. Yeah, and they asked her, "Can we try it on you?" They asked her family. She told her family because her father didn't want it. The father thought it might kill her, but she said, "I want it." She was 16 years old, and they let her have it. They gave the doctors permission, and thank goodness, yeah, because my mom lived to be in her upper 70s. Yeah, she developed diabetes, but most Indians do because of the diet. And our bodies are not used to this Western food, so most Indians develop diabetes. But my mother took care of it. Yeah, my mother took care of her diabetes, and she ended up living a really long life. She said, "Just take it as a part of my lifestyle. I have to do it, then I have to do it. Every morning, before the sun comes up or as it's coming up, she's out there walking. She'd be walking 4 miles, and come back in, and did her heart some exercise. Even in her 70s, she was doing that. So those of us who are younger and we're just sitting in front of a computer, Facebooking, chatting, playing video games, you're going to die really young because you're not exercising your body. You might be exercising your mind, but not your body. Your body's going to get sick early. Huh? That's why I said earlier, taking care of your total self, your physical body, your mind, your emotions, and your spiritual development. They all connect to each other. Yeah. See, yeah, you do things to mental gymnastics, as one of my math teachers used to say. Let's do some mental gymnastics. He's sitting there. Ooh, gee, I'm pretty good. I really had a good thought there, so. He was a funny guy. He was a World War II veteran. Yeah, one of my favorite math teacher. And he came to Berlin and he described what he saw to us. And when Hitler killed himself and so forth, and what Berlin looked like, and the devastation that he saw. And ever since then, he said, people can really be mean, but people can really be nice. It doesn't matter what skin color you are. So he's one of the very few enlightened white people in South Dakota that I'm glad to have met, because it showed to me that not all white people are the same. This guy saw me as a human being. It's one of the best math teachers I ever had in my life. It had nothing to do with his skin color. It had everything to do with what kind of person he was inside. So him being like that encouraged me to think this way too. So I'm lucky, to have had the mother that I had, to have had some of the teachers, even spiritual teachers as well, that they all focus on one thing: reality begins within. So when you start talking like, that's how them white people are, you can't trust them, then you're thinking away from your sacred center and you are a racist. And just because someone was racist to you, that does not mean it's right for you to be racist to people of that skin color. Because that's all duality. Duality produces racism. Like I said, when groups start encountering each other and they see differences, right away there's a tendency for some people in one group to want to oppress the others. So that's racism. And then ethnocentrism, where you judge another culture by your cultural standards. And then paternalism, where you think you know what's right for everybody. And then dogma, when you say, my way is the only way. And if you disagree, you're the enemy. I must destroy you. Can you see how religion develops from that? Yeah? So that is all duality. And this is unhealthy. This is not the way to live. This is the way to die. Yeah? When you oppress one another in any way, that's the way to die. That is going to lead you down a sick road. That is the unhealthy road. So all I ask is that you think of these things. Yeah, I'm not going to ask you to agree, but just think about what I said. But I tell you, what I said is founded in Lakota Star knowledge. This is the way the ancestors believed. Yeah. So remember, from what I said, it's all based on Lakota Star knowledge. Everything that I said so far, and this is part of that is that we were not created as skin colors. Yeah, that's not how we were created at all. And we have the wonderful capacity to help one another, to teach one another. And a teacher, a real teacher, learns from his students or her students. That's called humility. And that's a problem today. A lot of Lakota teachers, they're thinking in this linear way, so they think that, since they're the teachers, that they don't make mistakes, and that students should obey them, and that's another form of oppression. And I think that's another one of many reasons why Lakota language teachers have been doing their job for 40 years, for maybe even 50 years, and have not produced one fluent speaker. I think this is one of the reasons why they're doing it in a dualistic way. And how did they get that way? Yeah, how did Indians become even more dualistic? Yeah, let me share that with you. Hang on a second. There's got a message coming in, and I think somebody is. Ooh, okay. Well, that doesn't have to do with the show, so don't worry about that one. And I don't have to respond to that right away. So, anyway, let me explain to you how this happened. Yeah, that I said before, there was dualism, before white people came to North and South America, but it got worse later. Yeah, that we went through an experience that a lot of people don't know about. Even a lot of Indians don't know that we went through this certain experience, and they don't want to talk about it because it was horrible. Yeah, and so they are kind of in denial about it. And the problem is that affects parenting, and the children feel that. And they may not know what it is, but it does affect them in an unhealthy way. And so we end up in a situation that explains to you why today's Indians do not think like the ancestors whatsoever. Back in the late 1800s, when we were placed on reservations, there were prison camps in the beginning. And this is a situation where we couldn't leave. We were not allowed to hunt. Our knives and guns were taken from us, and we were only allowed to eat whatever the American government gave to us, which was really no good food. The quality of the food was okay when it left places like Chicago and stuff like that, but once it got to some of these train stations between there and the reservation, a lot of these handlers would sell it, and then they would buy old food and put that in there instead, and these middlemen would make a lot of money. Yeah. So what we got on the reservation was bullshit food. Yeah, it was really no good. And we ended up getting all kinds of diseases like heart diseases, hypertension, diabetes, things like that. And then at the same time, our language and ceremonies were declared illegal by the United States. So we were hit physically, spiritually, and emotionally. Soon after that, our minds became weak. And these, as I said earlier, these are the 4 parts of the South. So with the 4 parts of the South being sick, we lost our connection to our sacred center. So we started to focus on communicating away from that. And then the priests came from the various churches, and they learned our ways and said that since our ways conflict with the Bible, that our ways are evil, that they come from Satan. They come from the devil. So in our weakened states, we slowly began to accept that. Now, another thing is that there were some Lakota people that didn't want to accept that. They wanted to hang on to the traditional Lakota Star Knowledge ways. And if they revolted, they were sent to a mental hospital in Canton, South Dakota, which was set up for all reluctant Indians in America that did not want to become Christianized. They were sent there. And these church priests also committed the medicine men, medicine women, holy men, holy women. They committed all of them to these mental asylums too. This way, the people would not go to them for help, that they would come to the churches. They wanted the Indian people to only go to the priests and not their traditional healers. So they sent the healers to So they sent the healers to this mental asylum to die. And if you are radical, you were sent there to die too. Yeah. So while this is happening, the priests are saying to the Indian people, if you believe our way, we will help your children. And so, there was a very, very dire straits time. And so a lot of Indians became Christians because of that. Like I said, we were weak-minded too at that point. And those who stuck it out, there were people who refused to accept Christianity, but they went to church anyway. What they were doing was they were putting up a candy store front. On the outside, they were acting like good little Christian Indians, but on the inside, they weren't. They were Star Knowledge people. Yeah? They did this because they didn't want to get sent to that mental asylum to die. That's sad, isn't it? But that's part of what happened back then. And it's because of these people who maintained this knowledge in secret. Thanks to them, they passed it down, to certain people like me, and we still have this knowledge. And I have this show, and I'm sharing it with you. Because this regards the sacred center. And we all have that. Yeah, this is not a Lakota thing. This is a Ikche Oyate thing. Ikche Oyate means human being. When you live this way, as I said in the beginning, you communicate as a human, not as a Lakota, not as a German, or a Japanese, or an African. You communicate as a human. Yeah? That's really important to know. So, that's how it was back then. Yeah? Now remember I said that the priest said to the Indians, we will help your children. So, they took the children away from the parents, sent them to boarding school hundreds of miles away, where these children were tortured to speak only English and learn the civilized Christian way. If they spoke about home, they were tortured. These schools didn't do background checks in those days. Yeah, the pay was really low, so they got really no good teachers in these schools. A lot of these teachers were sadistic. They got sexual pleasure from torturing people. And here, this is like summer holiday camp for them. And the same thing for perverts. A lot of perverts now had their pick of the litter, and they could get away with it. That's what happened. A lot of these children were murdered, they were killed, they were raped, they were molested. And there's a lot of unmarked graves near these schools. Not all of these children are accounted for. So, those who made it through, what they learned was whatever they saw. Because a lot of these children never went back home. They were told by the priests that their families had died and that there was nobody there. And that broke their hearts. This is why some of these children, they were so sad they couldn't eat. And they ended up starving themselves to death. And those who made it through, like I said, they didn't really survive because they were not able to process all these emotional traumas that they experienced. They didn't know how, because the only adults that were around them were these unhealthy, abusive people, teachers, dorm matrons, cooks, janitors, priests. They were all unhealthy to them. That's all they knew. They learned how to become victims, and they learned how to become abusers to those who they considered weaker than themselves. So they didn't really survive. A lot of these children that made it through these schools, they had a lot of traumas that they didn't know how to deal with, because all they saw was abuse. That's what they learned. There was no adult healthy role models to emulate. And remember I said these children were told that their families were all dead, so they didn't go back during summer holiday. They just stayed at these schools and worked. So when they left these schools, they tried to live in mainstream America. Nobody accepted them. They would say, you're a heathen. You're a dirty Indian. So they couldn't even get jobs off the reservation. And when they went back to the reservation, to their people, they ran into more problems. Many, many times they were not even accepted by their own people, because their own people were saying, you're too white. You act like a white man. So they're caught in between. So a lot of them turned to alcohol to try to hide all of it, to try to forget everything. They turned to alcohol, and then later drugs. There were some who tried to make it. They married each other because they knew each other went through the same thing. And they didn't want their children to go through what they went through. So they didn't teach them the language. They didn't teach them the culture. Those children, the children of these first generation boarding school people, those children are today's elders. When they were born, they didn't learn the language. They didn't learn Lakota Star knowledge. They never got the opportunity to. When you look at an old person on the reservation today, they're not the connection to the ancient past. No, they were born in a Christian background at a time when the reservations were strongly Christian. So this is what happened. That's a native experience that a lot of people don't realize. This is what happened all over America and Canada too. So the next generation, they are sent to boarding school too. No choice. It's a little bit better, but they're still abused. They're still getting treated really no good. And so they grow up, have children, and they don't teach their children anything. What can they teach them? They don't know anything concerning their own language. This is why today most people cannot speak their own language, and what little cultural information they know is Christianized, meaning it's dualistic, and it's not the original ancient form. Okay, so the first generation of Indian kids that were sent to boarding school, since all around them were unhealthy adults who did nothing but abuse them, they didn't receive healthy parenting. They missed things that they should have learned about life. So they're lacking emotional development. So when they grow up, and those who make it through these boarding schools and then they have children, those children are also lacking that emotional support, that emotional development, because the parents don't know how to do it. Yeah? All they knew and all they learned was abuse. All they experienced in these schools was abuse. So they have a hard time trying to be a healthy parent. So they do the best that they can. But the children still are not receiving the proper emotional development, the experiences that healthy children should receive from healthy parents. They're still missing that. And so when that second generation grows up, they know even less concerning healthy parenting. And so their children receive even less. And every time this happens, the next generation becomes more dualistic than the previous one. So let me try to say that again. The first generation boarding school kids, they didn't receive proper parenting skills. So when they have children, their children are not receiving healthy training that they should be receiving. They're receiving even less than their parents. Now that second generation, when they grow up, see, they know even less. So when they have children, those children are receiving even less, and it gets worse with each generation, which also means that the less healthy emotional development they receive, the more dualistic they become. So with each generation is more becoming emotionally underdeveloped, they're also becoming more dualistic. So today, it's a huge mess on the reservation. We're incredibly, as a whole, we're incredibly underdeveloped emotionally, and we are incredibly dualistic. We're quick to attack each other. We're quick to pull each other down. We're just like the rest of the civilized, dualistic world. Notice I didn't say white man, because this is all over the world. It's not just among white countries. It's all over the world. Wherever there is a dualistic ideology, where one gender is considered less than and property of the other gender, you're going to have incredibly underdeveloped emotional people, which equals incredibly dualistic people. And that is unhealthy. So that started by the time of the late 1800s on the reservation.